A new surface clip, like, 20 years of 9/11 research, and I've never seen this clip, but this is amazing. An Israeli interviewed on 9/11. You can just tell, this is 9/11, everybody's in the streets. The Israeli, look at her facial expressions talking about this terrorist attack. She can't even hold back the smiles. We're going to play what she says in a second, but just look at the facial expression. She can't even control her micro expressions. The Israeli in New York on 9/11. She says the same thing that the dancing Israelis say, like, now you understand why they supposedly were high-fiving and dancing and celebrating, was because, now the Americans will know what we put up with the terrorist Muslims.
With the kind of people that we're dealing with. Well, big catastrophe, and I'm Israeli, and I hope that now people understand what we have to deal with, the kind of people that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. It's just a catastrophe.
Look at this one.
It's a big catastrophe. And
she's literally like can't hold back her smile as she says it's a big catastrophe. She's happy.
So, holy S, the FBI just revealed that 5,000 out of their 13,000 agents were focused on January 6th protesters. That's 39% of the entire bureau.
Oh my God.
Were focused on hunting down and building cases against the January 6th protesters. That's not counting the amount of FBI people who were in the crowd that day. That's just... So remember when, so this is congressman and former law enforcement. This is how many, he says conservatively, FBI and FBI assets were in the crowd creating that riot you saw. 99% of the people at January 6th were nonviolent. And that's why they showed this picture of the people inside the Capitol were still walking respectfully in between the ropes.
Do you think some of the agents are disguised as statues in there?
Right.
Spray paint them like this.
So listen to what he says. How many? So 5,000. So almost 4 out of 10 FBI people were working on trying to get January 6th protesters. Almost half the agency was dedicated to that. A handful of people. And so watch what Clay Higgins says. How many were actually in the January 6th?
We're gradually, professionally rolling that evidence out.
You sort of answered the question right there in larger terms. You just said that elements within the federal government, I assume law enforcement, intel, and military, and I'm using your words, lured Americans to Washington into what you called a trap.
Yes, sir.
So that would...
So how many of those 5,000 FBI people were luring people to then incite them into going into the Capitol? So we know that happened. I wonder how many. So his investigation found out that what was happening.
I mean, that's a shocking, and I assume that's a sober conclusion based on the evidence. That's what you're saying.
That would be my sober assessment as an investigator. And I love my country, and I've always been a staunch defender of the thin blue line, and I would proudly count the FBI amongst that number.
I have the wrong video. But he said that guy said 200, at least, because conservative number, 200 FBI and FBI assets were in the crowd inciting people to do stuff, and they were inside the Capitol before the riot started, dressed as MAGA supporters. There were police, took off their uniforms, put on MAGA stuff inside the Capitol. So, now my big question is, here's my big question to you, Kurt.
Yeah.
So if the FBI is going to go through all this trouble, because all this is to try to discredit Trump's political movement. So they wanted to get Trump committing a crime of insurrection, which they couldn't. He was never charged with that because he didn't do that. But they tried. And that's why they did those other 4 cases that are completely bogus, made up. And in fact, Andrew Cuomo said it was garbage, the charges they brought against him in New York.
Of course, dude, Jimmy, not just that. You got all these people. These are the people that were willing to show up to protest. So now you got them all in one place and know where they are. You can put charges on them. They can never own guns again. It's like you're eliminating an entire chunk of movement. You know what I mean? In the plan,
that's right.
We're going to eliminate the whole movement in one swoop.
And so they tried to get rid of Trump, didn't work, but then they put almost half the FBI on trying to dismantle his political organ or a movement. So my question is, why would they go through that much trouble to dismantle his political movement only to allow him to get power again? Why would they do that? Now, some people say, "Oh, it's just the Yankees versus the Cowboys, two sides of the deep state, or the Rockefellers versus the tech bros." That's what some people say. I think that's a little too simplistic of an explanation. So, which ones were running the FBI, and why would because obviously the ones who were against Trump, let's say Trump is a cowboy, so obviously the Yankees were running the
That's
FBI.
An old designation. I don't think Yankee and Cowboy is still how it is. Those lines have shifted quite a bit because a lot of Yankees and Cowboys are together. That's the whole New World Order.
That's
section.
right. That's exactly right.
So, but if you follow CIA or FBI or people that talk about being in it, they've been weeding, just like in Hollywood, just like your friends don't talk to you. Anybody that ain't going along with the thing got weeded out. They're not getting promoted. They're going to get driven out. Every industry. Anyone who was qualified there's no good people in the FBI. I don't believe that. But if you were someone that believed in the thing, you got weeded out enough so that we could do what we want for a long time. And that's why they don't want the books opening.
And we even reported on the questionnaire that they gave to FBI employees, asking them, do you know anybody here who's sympathetic to MAGA? Do you know anybody here who's sympathetic to January 6th? And then they would they'd weed those people out.
And you're already trained to trust the system because you're trying to be in the FBI.
That's
you
right.
Never did drugs. That's like told us in school. Don't ever do any drugs because you can't work at the FBI or Secret Service. And so you're already a person that follows orders by nature, and you believe in it, though. You're not bad. And then you got to confront that. And like now you're not going to get an A or your career, or you got to turn away.
So the people who were against Trump in the deep state were running the FBI, obviously, because they assigned half the FBI to go after him and his movement.
Let's say about 40% of them work for the deep state.
But the people who were running the FBI, so definitely all the people in charge. So then why would they then allow Trump to become president? Why wouldn't they, if they're willing to do that, if they're willing to lie, if they're willing to lie to the FISA court 17 times so they could get, if they're willing to do the dossier, which was, they knew was a lie. They lied about Papadopoulos. They lied about the FBI constantly. Russiagate was one big conspiracy theory invented by the FBI in the Clinton campaign. If they're willing to do all that, why would the FBI then all of a sudden go, oh, well, I guess he won the election? Why would they do that?
He's driving them out.
What? But why would they allow that to happen? Is my question, Kurt?
The guy missed. The guy that shot missed. The other guy missed.
So that's what a lot of people said. They said, well, they tried to get him. They gave him they got this patsy. Boy, was that guy ever a patsy. They got this guy who has no social media presence, all scrubbed. Nobody knows anything about him. They let him get on the 3 different Secret Service people saw the guy. They let him climb on top of the roof of the building that the Secret Service was in. They let him get on top. They let him get a clear shot. He got at least 3 shots off. And so you're saying so a lot of people are saying
COG is the one. The COG is the thing behind the whole thing. Continuity of government. That's the one.
The continuity of government.
And that's where, like, for example, they did the Ollie North stuff with the Iran-Contra smuggling. It's called the Doomsday Wire. It's like how you communicate if there's a nuclear war. And so I keep thinking about that thing Scott Ritter said, because I asked him about it. He goes, yeah, they think there's some kind of bunker that they're going to go to, but it's not there anymore. Those haven't been paid for in you. But I think something happened behind the scenes, because just like that DNC thing where I'm like, They all look like robots not getting instructions anymore. So I don't know what is different that I above my pay grade to know. But
so that's
such a So I mean, such a, like a power structure where you like Kamala can't have a conversation for 3 hours. She can't. They have to curate it. So she won't say anything that she actually thinks ever. And to get promoted in that system for how long now? You had to be like that. So now whoever's given the orders to the people to do that, the orders aren't coming. I don't know why. And I don't know. It is two factions of deep state. Don't ever think it's not.
And this should outrage you as an American citizen to find this out. If you're not outraged that the FBI is not there to uphold democracy or law and order, they're there to actually go against the democracy. The people elected Donald Trump the first time. They tried to undercut him at every turn, lied to the FISA court, tapped his phone,